Allstate wants to remind fans that mayhem is everywhere. Like when your fantasy league meets up at your house. Everything's great until the hot plate gets too hot for the tablecloth. Now your kitchen's up in smoke. And if you don't have the right home insurance coverage, the cost to fix this is anything but a fantasy. So switch to Allstate, save money, and get protected from mayhem like this. Not available in every state. Terms apply. Savings vary. Allstate Vehicle and Property Insurance Company and Affiliates. Northbrook, Illinois.
Hey, what's up? I'm Jared Goff, quarterback for the Detroit Lions. Abercrombie's NFL partnership kicked off last year, and if you haven't shopped there recently, I'll tell you exactly where to start. First, Abercrombie's denim quality is unmatched. I'm a fan of their loose jean. It's really in right now, and the athletic fit has extra room in the thigh I need. Make sure to hit up Abercrombie Essentials collection for tees and their best-selling Essential Popover hoodie. My wife is notorious for stealing that, so you might want to grab a few. Shop Abercrombie to see what everyone's talking about.
It's time for a Big Blue Kickoff Live.
Nobody can ever tell you that you couldn't do it, because you did.
On Giants.com.
You know what I saw? New York Giant pride.
And the Giants mobile app.
17-14 is the final. One touchdown, we are world champions. Believe it, and it will happen.
Part of the Giants Podcast Network.
Let's go out there like a bunch of crazy dogs. Have some fun.
Welcome to Monday's edition of Big Blue Kickoff Live, presented by Cadillac, the official luxury vehicle of the New York Football Giants. Glad you could be with us today on this Monday morning, following the opening day loss, 28-6 to the Minnesota Vikings. I'm Paul Dottino. He is Super Bowl champion Howard Cross.
Yep.
And we'll be here for the next hour to take your phone calls to talk New York Giants football. As a reminder, if you're not watching the show live, you can get an archive of this show and our entire podcast network on the Giants mobile app, podcast platforms everywhere, and at giants.com/podcasts. Howard, I just want to briefly get to this before we get to the game. Mm-hmm. And I know people want to talk about the game, and we'll be glad to do that in just a moment. But I don't want to let this weekend actually pass by and close out without just getting a minute from you about being on the Giants 100. We talked about it. We knew you were going to be on it. You came in. It was awesome to see you on it. And then Friday night, there was the Fan Fest with the introductions on the field, with the panels on the field, the drone show, the fireworks, a great celebration. And then even yesterday, right, you're down on the sideline doing the radio calls, and then at halftime, you guys get all introduced to the crowd. I got to be honest, Howard, regardless of what happened in the game, it was a really cool weekend, and I just want to say, I think on behalf of all Giants fans everywhere, thank you so much to all of the top 100, and thank you to all the people who put this thing together, because it was a great weekend in that regard.
Well, you know, it's pretty incredible. You think about it, like over 5,000 players that play for the team, and you try to pick 100 out of that 5,000, and I was very blessed to be chosen as one of those guys. It was really cool to go back and see a bunch of my teammates that played with me over the years and stuff from different decades. I played in 3 different decades, which is kind of funny. So I saw guys from each group that were on the 100. That was a lot of fun. It was fun to reminisce and laugh and catch up with guys and see where their families are today, and just like be appreciative of some guys that came way before us as well, because we were like talking about you remember when Roosevelt Brown used to walk around the locker room and be on the plane because he was scouting at the time, and it was just really interesting. And game aside, everything went pretty well, and then afterwards a few of us even got together and had a little dinner and still told jokes and smoked a couple cigars.
That's great stuff. I will tell you, Jeremy Shockey made his return to Giants land for the first time since he had played here. And that was really cool to see. Another guy who made his first time return was Kerry Collins.
Kerry's been in the area. He hasn't been to the stadium though, right?
No.
Okay.
No, he had not been to the stadium. And in fact, I got a chance to catch up with him in the Legacy Club during the reception. And wow. It just was really, really cool to catch up with Kerry again, because that 2000 NFC Championship game against Minnesota, amongst others, was just something you'll never forget. And just talking to him about it, you could see how he was lighting up even thinking about it. I will tell you this, Howard. He and I both expressed some surprise that Ike Hilliard did not make the top 100 because he was as tough a receiver and as a player as you'd ever want to find.
That is true. You know, Ike was one of those guys. But I don't know, was Ike a Pro Bowler?
No.
No. Okay, so how many years did he play for the Giants?
I want to say it was 8.
Yeah, so that kind of gets into that gray area where you got so many guys from history that have played, double-digit years for the team, and a lot of guys that been on championship teams and won championships, and a lot of guys, Monty played, 12 years, 13 years?
Well, yeah, had 5,000-yard seasons, and he holds every receiving record in the team's history.
And that's kind of like where it starts to get skewed with guys because everything's going on, and again, I wouldn't want to be on the what do you call it? The
committee?
The committee to vote. That
very difficult.
That would have been hard to do.
Very difficult.
And then trying to figure out how to place guys and who to place and who not to place, that would have been crazy.
Yeah, and to be honest, as much as Kerry and I both talked about Ike and were like, he really needed to be on the list. Mm-hmm. Well, then you got that second question. Well, then who do you take off?
Exactly.
And that's not a fun one to do.
It's crazy. Was Baker on the list, right?
Stephen Baker was not on the list.
Wow.
Now his career
was short,
much shorter.
But he did win a Super Bowl.
He did.
Interesting.
But a much shorter career compared to Ike, and so obviously with the longevity, Ike had much better numbers.
Yeah. Okay.
I and again, I'm a big Stephen Baker guy, but I'd have to definitely put Ike Hilliard in ahead of him.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm not going to debate any more names then.
That's all right. No need to do that.
I'm not going to bring anybody else's name.
But the point is,
it was a great.
It was
great
wonderful.
The fans were incrable. On Friday night they were great.
The drone show,
the
man.
drone show was really cool.
Howard, have you ever seen anything quite like that?
I've seen a few drone shows. I couldn't believe because in my mind we're too close to Teterboro and all these different things. I'm like, they're going to do let me get outside the stadium and watch it. So I watched it from the parking lot from a safe
distance. Did you really?
Yeah, it was safer, I felt like.
I didn't sense any danger at all.
Yeah,
I was more in amazement than anything else.
I was amazed, but we're close to Teterboro Airport.
I got you. All right. Well, I appreciate those feelings. I just wanted to close the book on that because it deserves to be noticed. Yeah. And the folks who helped put it all together, everybody upstairs, deserves to be recognized because I think they made it a great weekend for all Giants fans who appreciate the history and tradition of this team, as well as all the people who participated in the history of this team.
Yeah, absolutely. And God bless all the guys and ladies that came to represent the great players that had passed away. I thought that was really cool. I tried to go over and speak to as many of them as I possibly could and shake their hands and stuff because, that's a big part of the history of the organization. And the organization's been around for 100 years. So, to be surprised, like Steve Horn was saying, wouldn't it be interesting if everybody was still here? I said, there's no way they could all still be here. But their families are here.
No.
So it's pretty, but that was really nice.
All right, 201-939-4513 is our phone number. So we close the book on that. And, of course, the Giants 100 book is out. And did you look at that yet?
I haven't had a chance to look at it.
You got to see it, Howard.
Okay.
You got to see it. It's very, very cool. And now we do have to move on. The Century Red uniforms were worn yesterday, and they did not bring luck to the football Giants, who basically had a really rough day from start to finish in all aspects of football as the Minnesota Vikings, they handed it to them.
Yeah, they did. You know what? I thought it was interesting because, I was thinking how it was going to go down with Coach Daboll versus the defense coordinator, Brian Flores. They kind of coached against each other when he was in Miami and Daboll was in Buffalo. I'm like, okay, they're kind of familiar with each other. There's no Josh Allen out there on the field, so I wasn't really worried about that from our standpoint. But I wanted to see kind of how he would adjust and how he would attack the Giants' offense, knowing the familiarity that was there.
Mm-hmm. Now, a couple of numbers that I just want to cite here because no matter how many guys played poorly during the course of the day, and most of them did, quite honestly, there are a couple of numbers that just stick out on the stat sheet. And we can get into the reasons why, but 9 penalties accepted against the Giants and 5 sacks allowed by the Giants. Those two numbers cannot be repeated if you're going to win football games.
Well, the O-line, they played better, I will say that, but they did have too many penalties. That's one. The sacks, were a combination of two things. Like Daniel's dropping back. He knows he has more time. But the separation that we were hoping to see from our receivers just wasn't there. And, it's either take a sack or, put the ball at risk. And I think he put it at risk maybe once. I think they had one great play, the interception for a touchdown, which was brilliantly called by the defense. And in my mind, I've always wondered why that play doesn't happen more often. But I'm like, so I don't see why you can just intercept the ball. He's just throwing it to the sideline. You should just run over and put your hands up. But I've said that 100 times. People are like, no, that's not how it works. I'm like, it kind of could be how it works, but
Van Ginkel got it.
Yeah, but back to the offensive line, they did a pretty decent job. Daniel, I mean, I hate to say it, he's going to have to start running more, and I don't want him to run more because I think it puts him in danger and everything. But when guys aren't getting open, and when guys weren't getting open, I wouldn't say not getting open, they weren't getting open. The defensive backs were covering them pretty well. I don't know. I mean, that place, they're going to go back and look at the tape, and they're going to see when he's scrambling, there's opportunities to get open. Mm-hmm. And that's what they're going to see. They're going to see those 4 or 5 sacks, and when he's running around buying extra time, when your route is done and you're looking back, that's when the fun begins for you, because you get to break to an open area and he'll throw the ball to you. But it's not going to be that, you see other guys, I guess what they say, play beyond the play when it's happening. Our receivers are going to have to get a little bit of that in their system and start looking and thinking about, okay, how can I get open, and what are the quote unquote, what are the Giants' scramble rules? What are the rules for those guys when the quarterback starts to scramble?
Okay, what will they see? And I don't think there'll be too many holes when they look at the 21 carries for 74 yards as a team. Jones did have 6 rushes for 15, but Singletary 10 for 37. Longest run was by Wan'Dale Robinson for 14. Mm-hmm. I mean, there was really not much room to run at all.
I thought that they did okay running the ball. I don't think that they, it was just interesting how the game was flowing. If you go first down, if you don't get any yards on first down, it's kind of hard to run the ball on second or third down. So they had one run chance each. In the first run, they would get 2 or 3 yards here, 2 or 3 yards there. Instead of running it again for 2 or 3 yards, it was a pass. And that's just the nature of the league right now. If you were willing to say, I'll take 3 yards, and I'll have a 3rd and 4, you'll have more opportunities and you have greater success on 3rd and 4 every time than you would at 3rd and 7, 3rd and 8, 3rd and 10, because you had to run it once and then you got caught or the ball gets batted down or someone jumps off sides in the second play.
All right, I'm going to ask you 2 more questions and we'll get to the calls because I know the people are dialing in.
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk about the rookies for a second. All right, we'll start with defense, where Newman had 7 tackles. Muasau had 6, mm-hmm. including an interception. Mm-hmm. All right, let's not forget that.
Yeah, one missed tackle. That was
Phillips had 4 tackles, mm-hmm. also had a forced fumble.
Mm-hmm.
And Neighbors on the day finished with 7 targets and had 5 catches for 66 yards, did have 1 drop that he himself was upset with.
Yeah, well, I thought that the defensive rookies had an exceptional day, the way they were playing, making plays, being noticed. You could tell they were out there. You were hearing their name being called. I thought the offensive rookies, Neighbors did a decent job. He said he complained about the 1 drop. As he watches himself in the game, he's going to see how he can have more creative opportunities, like I said, during the scrambles to get more opportunities for himself, because he will become a super threat if Daniel starts to scramble and they starts looking for him. They used to look for Saquon in the backfield or look for Saquon out on the edge to dump the ball to when he's scrambling. Imagine dumping the ball 10 or 15 yards downfield to a
mm-hmm. receiver.
So that's what is going to develop from. I'm hoping what's going to develop from this week. Also, I thought that the running back didn't really get a chance to get it going because we weren't, like I said, the running game it takes time to get the running game going. And lastly, I think Theo, I thought he played well, but again, I think all the offensive rookies had a drop if they had anything to do with the ball. So that's that would be something that counts against them. And now if they were competing in offense and defense, they were like, okay, we got to pick our side up a little bit.
Yeah, each one had 1,
mm-hmm.
and for Johnson that was disappointing because Theo Johnson has been great during training camp. Really, really good. All right, one other mention I wanted to go, and this will be the final one for you, Howard, right off the bat.
Mm-hmm.
Dexter Lawrence had a whale of a game. And it got buried in the course of events because the Giants just were not in this one. But Dexter Lawrence had a pass defense, which resulted in an interception because he tipped the ball. He had 8 quarterback pressures on 24 attempts by Sam Darnold. So he was constantly in his face. He had a sack. I think he had 3 or 4 tackles, including one for a loss. Hit the quarterback twice. Dexter Lawrence, he was alive and well.
I think Dexter did a good job. I think Burns started to come on a little bit towards the end of the game, started to make some more moves and get in there. We need Thibodeau to come to the party as well. He didn't have the game he probably wanted to have his first game out. I think Bobby Okereke had a good day. Very solid play in the middle of the defense, stepping up and trying to make tackles and everything. I think again, when you think about if you have time throwing the ball down the field. If we play against veteran, top-ranked receivers, it could be a struggle from time to time.
There's no better place to watch live TV this fall than Hulu Plus Live TV. Why? Because you get your favorite sports like football, local channels, shows, and so much more. Plus, get Hulu's entire streaming library with Disney Plus and ESPN Plus included with your plan. No long-term contracts or hidden fees. Don't wait. Start your 3-day free trial of Hulu Plus Live TV today. Live TV plan required. Access content from each service separately. Offer valid for new and eligible returning subscribers only if available. Terms and restrictions apply. Learn more at hulu.com.
Okay, that'll do it for our opening comments. Now we go to you folks, the fans, at 201-939-4513 as the Giants lick their wounds after losing to the Vikings and now have to get ready for a trip this weekend to visit the Washington Commanders down the Eastern Seaboard. And as a reminder, guess what? The Giants Foundation Legends Run, well, that was also this past weekend. So we can.
No, I didn't run. Oh, I thought you were going to ask
You
that
didn't?
one.
No. I
I
was going to ask for your time.
Yeah, okay. No.
No?
It would have been slow. You would need a sundial.
Okay. How about your golf score?
Oh, that I can tell you about.
Okay. I can read these PSAs, though. However, the Giants Huddle podcast, with all kinds of interviews with Giants and NFL folks, gives you in-depth stories about what's going on in the National Football League, covering Big Blue. It's on your favorite podcast platforms. We'll go to giants.com/podcasts. And don't forget, if you're an Apple Podcast listener, leave a 5-star positive review so we know exactly which ones are hitting and missing, and we can get the best programming on there for you. In fact, John Schmelk and I on Friday taped a number of huddle interviews with Giants legends that we will scatter throughout the course of the regular season so that you guys continue to get that nostalgic flavor of some of the top Giants 100 players who have been in this franchise's history. The Giants' official connected TV streaming app is Giants TV. It brings original video content and game highlights on demand and direct to Big Blue fans. Giants TV is free on Apple TV, Roku, Amazon Fire TV, as well as the Giants mobile app. 201-939-4513. We go to Christian in New York. You are first on Big Blue Kickoff Live. Hello.
Hey, guys. Hope you're recovering well on this Monday. Just want to say, as far as the receivers go, they were actually getting pretty open. Next Gen, they had the 4th most wide receiver separation this weekend, and that's not a very surface level stat that they do with the Next Gen stats. So, that's pretty concerning because the offensive line was better, the wide receivers were better, but Daniel Jones still looks like he's honestly struggling to even see what's happening. I mean, he's on time, and he's missing a lot of easy throws. And, I'll just be honest, I don't think he's shown a good thing ever since his second neck injury, because you're looking at the Raiders game where he was atrocious last year. You're looking at the Texans preseason game where he was atrocious until backups came in. And then yesterday, he essentially looks like a rookie.
So for the throws and the Next Gen stats, as watching the game from the sideline, when I say that the guys weren't, a lot of the time weren't that open, until the scramble starts to happen, that's the next gen stats that they're reading to you. They're not talking initial open. They're talking about after the third or fourth second. That's kind of hard thing.
I don't think they define it that way.
They must be, because as we're watching, when we're looking back at it and looking at it from the sideline, that's what was happening. So that's one. Two, some of the throws you saw Daniel throwing behind on the back shoulder of guys, and they seemed like they were behind the guys. If you would look out to the right of the guy or to the left of the guy when he's throwing to the back shoulder, he's trying to get the guy to stop, because if he throws it to the front of the guy, he's either throwing it into a big hit or an interception.
Okay.
And the other throws, they were off. I'll give you some of the throws may have been off.
Howard, to your credit, you questioned the definition of the stat, and Howard is right. The average separation that Next Gen Stats quotes, it says here, their definition is the distance in yards measured between a wide receiver, tight end, and the nearest defender at the time of the catch or incompletion, which would include the scramble time.
Mm-hmm.
So there's your answer to that one.
Yeah,
but if you're never on time and you're really not in rhythm, then isn't that skewing a stat like that?
That's the way the stats. That's the way the stat is done. That's not me. That's not me changing the stat. You quoted a stat, and I told you what the stat was.
Oh no. well, but right. What I'm saying, at the time of the catch, I mean.
So if they were able to do it, and they're not, because they don't know the routes and everything, and they don't know what the quarterback is looking for, if they could say when the quarterback dropped back and hit his back foot, 3-step, 5-step, 7-step, and if he takes 1 pat, right, 2 pats, 3 pats, meaning he went through all 3 reads, whichever guy he throws the ball to would be the determining factor of how wide open a guy is. When he pats 1, that guy's not open. This is still your stat. When he pats 2, that guy's not open. This is still your stat. When he pats 3, that guy might be open. Now he's all the way across the ball, and sometimes that guy's a check down guy.
See, so what Howard's trying to explain to you is that the definition of the stat is flawed.
It's not flawed. It is what it is. It's explaining when they say a guy is open.
Right.
Like,
it's factual, but it's not taken within the context of the play.
Like if you watch Josh Allen play, or if you watch Patrick Mahomes, sometimes when these guys roll out of the play and the play is breaking down, the guy's open they're throwing the ball to. When you see Tua throwing to Tyreek Hill sometimes, and he's like yards behind somebody.
Right.
Yeah, the play's broken down, Tyreek's open, and they're going to say, well, that part of the stat will be, look, this guy just did X, Y, and Z. That's not me. Quote unquote defending Daniel. That's not me, defending or condemning our receivers. I'm just saying, as far as that stat goes, we all know what that stat is.
But when we're talking about being 4th highest in that stat, that's not an overall positive for the receivers. I mean, when we're talking, 15th or 16th, your middle of the pack, when we're talking 4th highest in receiver separation, that's a scale that they're putting every team on.
Yeah.
So, I get that there's context to it, but that can't be a negative on the receiver to rank that high in that metric.
No, I'm not. Again, watching the game from the sideline and watching it from the end zone, trying to see what was happening with the coverage and stuff, I noticed that if the initial 1, 2, 3 pat wasn't there when he started to scramble, that's when he needed to try to find some guys. And unfortunately, he scrambled, I don't know how many times during the game, to try to get more time for it. And I'm like, they're going to get better in the timing of it. Coach Dayball to get better and trying to make sure that they understand the timing of it, and it'll get closer. It just takes time for them, unfortunately, to get that done. They should, some teams did it pretty well. Most teams that I watched didn't do it at all. So it's, I'd like to think that we were further along in the process, or that we were better at it. But, after watching, him try it, watching, some other guys fail at it as well, and watching a few teams do well at it, it just is what it is until they can actually figure it out. And I think that they will get better at it as the season goes along. And I just think that this time that, a lot of things factored in, including, I think, a little bit of rust. I hate to say it, but a little bit of rust from the offense as a whole. I don't believe in not playing guys in the preseason, but that's what most of the league is doing now.
Yeah, Howard and I are on the same page on that, Christian. And as I let you go, I leave you with this thought. Daniel Jones did miss 9 months because of the torn ACL, and he had exactly 2 quarters of football with his offense to play during the preseason. Only 2 quarters. And, you know, it's pretty amazing. I asked somebody yesterday about the Patriots and the Bengals game. You know, the Bengals got upset by New England.
Yeah.
And I said, I'm curious, how many snaps did Joe Burrow play in the preseason? And the answer was about a dozen. One appearance, or two appearances, but about a dozen snaps, I believe, total, or whatever the number was. He missed the last 7 games of last year, so similar to Daniel, and he played very poorly yesterday. Coincidence, maybe, but you know this is something. Kirk Cousins too. Kirk Cousins had a terrible day yesterday and missed a whole bunch of games last year.
There was a lot of guys.
And then didn't play in the preseason.
There were a lot of guys who had bad days yesterday. That's why I'm not.
Without a doubt.
I'm not jumping on anybody's bandwagon.
And I'm not going to do that either, Howard.
I'm not listing everybody that played bad.
I'm not going to either. I'm simply saying that, you know, there are a bunch of quarterbacks and a bunch of teams that are probably very unhappy with their game film this morning. And that's a fair statement.
The league as a whole. And I will say this, the league as a whole, the teams that did really well, that was great for them and everything. But the league as a whole, if you watch the games, a lot of missed tackles, a lot of throws that just weren't quite connecting. And that's because there weren't the live reps that they would have if they were allowed to play in preseason.
Yep.
And with all the great fandom and all the people like us who sit behind Mike saying, oh, you can't let this guy out there. You got to protect him. You got to protect him. And then when the games get started, they complain about why is he playing so poorly? Because he doesn't have live reps.
Well, you and I are in the minority on that, Howard, because we're on the same page.
I know
we are definitely on the same page.
I know what it took. I talked to a bunch of guys in the tunnel. They were wondering, like, how are these guys able to play if they don't get live reps? I'm like, I don't know. LT even asked me. I'm like, I don't know. So
201-939-4513. Cliff in New York, you're next on the program. Hello.
Hey, guys. Listen, you know, we Dable had, you know, the classic comment about the DPI call early, you know.
Was, by the way, horrible call.
Well, that's what I'm getting at. I listen to the game on the radio with the sound on the TV off, so I get to hear this fella that I know is not out there to sugarcoat anything. He just calls him as he sees him. I've been listening to this fella for years, and he's standing on the sideline maybe 50 feet away. and when he says right away, offensive PI, I didn't have to see the replay. I knew he would have it right. So the thing is, I was expecting us to have to go out and really dominate defensively for a while. I didn't expect the offense to light it up. I just didn't know how good their defense was going to be, and that's another thing. Nobody's mentioned yet. You know, it'll be way into the season before we know, but the leap that they made with their defense last year and where they might go this year could be really formidable. But the thing about so-called bad calls, we really that was the turning point of the game, I thought. Because we really had them. They had no reason to feel confident about anything until that happened. And there just seems to be this emotional swing that can happen. You know, we've seen bad calls down the road in the game where, you know, the answer is, well, we have to be responsible for putting ourselves in a position where one bad call could have killed us. Well, this time, it's early in the game. We really needed to dominate them and maybe spook them into some more turnovers like they did. You know, we had a chance to turn them over, and of course we only get the field goal. I didn't, you know, I expected that, but it just took way too much away from us to not begin to get on a roll. And there seems to be this collective confidence that goes on that you guys were just referring to also with the lack of the preseason. I mean, to me that was just the biggest thing. Again, we actually did look better as the game went on, but it was too late because they just got too much of a lift. I mean, coming into the hostile stadium in game one, they knew about the tradition and all that stuff. I don't know what they knew about, but they had a chance to get off the floor and it wasn't our fault.
Mm-hmm.
And I expected
All right,
that.
Cliff,
Yeah,
I'm going to be a little harder on the team than you are because, after that touchdown, it's 7-3 Vikings, okay? And the Giants take the ball from their own 28, and they get all the way into Minnesota territory. They're at the 36-yard line. They're in scoring range. And they get back-to-back false start and holding penalties, and they wind up getting stuck on a 4th and 15 at the 40, and they punt the ball away. See, if you answer with points in that ensuing offensive series, well, that plugs the dam. But the Giants didn't do that.
Well, and Paul, in fairness to his point, that was one of the worst egregious calls that I've ever seen.
The call on Adoree Jackson you're talking about.
Receiver,
the receiver put his hands in Adoree's face.
Over his face mask, pulled him down.
Absolutely,
Adoree's
it was horrible.
Looking back and everything, and then, that does do something for, everybody, because the defense was pretty stout at that moment. They were fighting them pretty well.
Well, they had a sack and a forced fumble, I think, in the first 3 plays on defense.
And that was a third down play, and that play would have been over with. So now you go back, and you get the ball and you drive it down. If you make any mistakes, you got to go back to the drawing board. And unfortunately, they're not in a position yet where they can live past 1 or 2 mistakes. They got to continue to be almost perfect at the minor things, at the little details first. But yes, that was a bad call, and I called it right before the referee even said anything. It was a pretty bad call. And Coach Daboll went out and asked him, explain to me, if the guy's looking back and he's pulling his head down, how is it his fault if the guy's jumping on him and pulling him down? And the ref's I didn't see it that way. And that's his
Wow.
I was standing right there. And he just, Coach just shakes his head and wow, okay, and just walks away. So that's just part of the game, though.
Well, I hope he didn't not see it that way, because he was bored with what I was looking forward to seeing, which was a defensive struggle where nothing much was going to happen on offense either way for a while. And I agree with you, Paul, on that. When they came down and when it was 7-3, I remember that.
Yeah, Cliff, you have to counterpunch, even if you feel like you've been given the short end of the stick. At some point, you have to counterpunch. You can't let Niagara Falls just swallow you up.
Well, then they had a resilience problem then.
Well, look what happened, right? They took themselves out of scoring range.
They were making They made a lot of errors offensively.
They did.
They did. There's no way around it.
As we said on the postgame show last night, the Giants did not play complimentary football in any way, shape, or form.
Oh, they were complimentary. They were
Except at the
complimentary
very
bad.
beginning.
Okay, Howard. I'm not.
They played bad. They played bad on both sides.
That's it. That's it.
That's a compliment to each other.
It was what it was, Cliff. I wish it was just as simple as this one play was the turning point, and that meant everything. It was a bad stinkeroo game all the way around.
Well, that really goes right back. I was thinking of you, Paul, about no preseason snaps, and right early on in the game with the offense looking like it did, and I was thinking, well, I would prefer a stinkeroo opener to losing one of those guys on injury in the preseason. I really would. I just didn't think it to be as bad as it turned out to be. And I think we're going to see how good this other guy's defense was as the season goes on. I expect them to be really good. So, we could have done better, but we've just got to get some more reps. And Sunday, I'm hopeful we can do better. I like what Tampa did to their defense, and that encourages me a little bit. So we'll see.
All right, Cliff, thank you. Brian Daboll just got done with his conference call, as I understand it, while we were here doing the show, Howard. So we do have some updates from the coach on injuries. Nick McLeod, sore knee day-to-day, but could be week-to-week. Darius Slayton is in the concussion protocol. You remember he was the punt returner yesterday.
Oh, my goodness.
Gunnar Olszewski had been hurt, re-injured his groin during pregame warm-ups. The new diagnosis or prognosis on him is he will be out for weeks, according to the coach.
Yeah, the groin is an interesting injury.
And linebacker Carter Coughlin, an important part of special teams, was injured early in the game. Pectoral injury. Coach says he will be out for months.
Wow. That's really bad for these guys, man. I feel bad for when they get nicked up like that. But again,
Yep. Also, for those who were asking about playing time, again, Dan Salamone from Giants.com is quoting the coach, Brian Dable, off the conference call while we were beginning the show. Micah McFadden was on a pitch count. With Muasau playing well, they were going to allow him to play the hot hand and stay in the game. Cordell Flott wound up playing a lot of slot yesterday. They do want to get him back out on the boundary. This is just the way it played out yesterday. Also, Dable saying that Isaiah Simmons, the reason he got so few snaps is because they went with Dane Bilton as the money backer, and he took most of those snaps away yesterday.
Okay, well, whoever's playing, they got to pick it up.
That's for sure.
That's all it is.
201-939-4513. Rob in Yonkers, you're next on the program. Hello.
Hey,
wow.
Good afternoon, guys.
That sounded like an elephant sneezing.
God bless the best sneeze.
Yeah.
Salud.
I'm actually on work on the roof, so I'm getting away from the noise right now.
All right, Rob, go ahead.
Okay. Number one, how are you guys doing? Paul, it was actually really great to meet you. I was at FanFest, and I was actually one of the first people to shake your hand.
Oh, well, thanks for coming out. I appreciate that. Nice to see you.
Oh, it was FanFest was beautiful, and especially the drone show. The drone show was really, really awesome.
Mm-hmm. It was terrific.
All right, so yeah, it was definitely terrific. It was like we had a great Friday and a great Saturday and an awful Sunday. So now, what I want to say is that you guys spoke about how Vikings, and I agree with you, Paul, how they're in our weight class, and that I feel that they are in our weight class when it comes to the division. So I'm a little afraid because if we can't beat someone in our own weight class, what's going to happen when we come up against Dallas or the Eagles?
Well, that's troubling. There's no question. They got another team that may be in their weight class this week in Washington. They just got beaten yesterday. Remains to be seen what the Commanders really have. But you know what, Howard? I'd much rather play a team like that in week 2 after a loss than play the Kansas City Chiefs, okay?
Well, I think the Vikings were, everybody's saying they're in our weight class, but I thought they were a little bit better than people thought. I think with Flores as the defensive coordinator, I don't think people have really understood how good of a defensive mind Flores is, and he has really advanced their defense greatly. As far as their offense goes, you got Jefferson over there and Thielen both out there playing. If both of those guys are playing, you're gonna have an advantage because it's hard to cover both of those guys. You can't just like double one or something. So that's pretty good. So, I'm hoping and praying that they keep it up, but. Meaning the Giants find a way to get back in it and start getting things going. But as far as weight classes go, Minnesota's a lot better than people thought.
I'll say this, and Rob, we'll get right back to you in a second. Howard, I didn't think Minnesota blitzed nearly as much as we expected them to. And then the few times when they did, it seemed like it was a zone blitz where they were mugging guys, dropping guys out, and basically making the Giants pick which ones they were going to block.
I don't think it was so much of the blitz. I thought it was like when the coverages came out, they were bracketing guys to make sure they're inside and out, making sure that they couldn't get going when the guys were down the field. And when you're looking at them, it's like, what kind of defense is that where they were able to cover? If we had 2 tight ends in, they would bracket the far receiver. If you had one, they were. That was a pretty interesting defense.
It was. Go ahead, Rob.
And also, oh my gosh, the off season, we're talking about how good the defense is, and I feel we didn't get enough pressure. And what did Sam Donald? What he had 12 completions. I was like, why is it every time that a record is made, it always got to be made on us? So hopefully the defense can. And I also listened to you guys from before how you basically we're still giving Daniel Jones a chance because he's been out so long. So I'm going to go with you guys. I'm still going to give him a chance.
Mm-hmm.
He just needs to stop making rookie mistakes.
All right, appreciate the call, Rob. Go ahead. All right. Please be careful on the roof. 201-939-4513. Just to the point about quarterback pressures, Bobby Okereke and Brian Burns in particular talked about the game plan that the Vikings had used. Very significant in that they were concentrated on getting the ball out, making sure they protected the edges. Darnold was only hit twice. Giants had one sack. It was Dexter Lawrence.
Yep.
And they only got to hit Darnold twice. And you know what, Howard? We say it all the time on this show. I've been talking about it for years. Remember, it's sacks, quarterback hits, and hurries that equals the pressure stat. All three of those things equal pressure. There's no doubt the Giants did not get enough pressure. It's one thing to say they only got one sack, but it's all those other numbers together that were not high enough.
Well, so, like I said, I saw Burns do a couple spins and get there and hit him and cause him to throw the ball early. I saw that like 2 or 3 times. I saw Dexter cause him to throw the ball early 2 or 3 times, and those plays kind of worked out. Even the batted ball kind of worked out. But as for the rest of the time, he would have a lot of time to throw the ball. He was having a little bit of a pitch and catch or 7-on-7 kind of moment. So they're going to go back and look at this and try to figure out, okay, how we're going to win more of our one-on-ones if we're in one-on-one situation. Who's going to be that fourth guy to get down there to try to create some pressure, and they're going to have to find, like, Thibodeau's going to have his pressure on his side. Burns is going to have pressure. We know that Dexter's going to have pressure. If we have one more body that can come in to create a little more havoc, or if you send one extra guy, and it's like a one-on-one blocking across the board, somebody's going to get there, and there'll be more pressure on the quarterback. But right now, as of yesterday, that's not what we did. Yesterday we looked good for a second. When Dexter gets the sack, I'm like, okay, they're going to start bringing pressure. They're going to be able to get him. And they just didn't. It just kind of like one hit, time off. I did another hit later. Then it was a lot of time off. And it gets hard, especially when they have long drives. That 99-yard drive, that took a lot out of the defense.
I put the numbers down. I believe Darnold on that drive, which was very difficult to stomach, was 7 of 7 for 98 yards.
Yeah. Like
11 plays, 99 yards on the drive. Just that was just not good at all for the Giants. Rich in Long Island, you're next on Big Blue Kickoff Live. Hello.
Hey, Paul, it's Rich, a.k.a. Big Blue. How you doing?
Hey, Big Blue.
Rich, what's going on?
Hey, so listen, I'm just going to make it short. You guys just mentioned that 99-yard drive was the killer. But the one thing I'll say, lucky for our general manager that J.J. McCarthy was not the quarterback yesterday, and if they would have won.
I don't think J.J. would have played any better than Sam did, but it was just one of those days.
Sam was on. Yeah. Sam, his first half was terrific.
Yes, it was.
No, you know what? I thought defensively, the first series we were out there, we played great, and then it just wasn't good. But you know what? Let's see what happens on Sunday. And Howard, Roll Tide in Wisconsin this weekend.
It's going to be a good game, man. I'm looking forward to that. That's going to be a big, big one.
Well, look forward to your show later in the week.
All right, Rich, thank you so much for calling. 201-939-4513. And that's always been the Achilles for Sam Darnold. You get pressure on him, he rattles easily. Remember seeing ghosts in the stadium and stuff. Yeah. They did not get nearly enough pressure on him, and that's the thing. You got to crack that egg, and the Giants never hit the egg to crack him.
Listen, the offensive line for Minnesota played pretty well.
They did.
They played pretty well. Like they pretty much Dex gets 2 hits and pressures, but and like I said, Burns got a couple, but they played well enough to hold them off him. If you can hold them off and give your quarterback time, guys will get open.
Got about 15 minutes left of the program. We go to Lou in Pennsylvania. You're next on the show. Hello.
Hello, everyone. How you doing?
Hi.
Very good. How are we doing?
I'm doing well. So, being in Pennsylvania is kind of hard being a Giants fan, especially now that Saquon is down here. So, my phone was ringing off the hook as the game went on. But there's a few things. I don't know the game as well as you guys, but is the Minnesota offensive line that much older or more experienced than our offensive line? Why is it so hard for the Giants to get something that's like workable, or as Paul would say, like functional? We don't need top 10. It's just I find like the slants and the screenplays just don't work. And I have to say, in 2 years that Dable being the coach, a season opener, you tallied 6 points. That's as a Giant fan, it's the hardest thing to look at. Is his 4 and like, I know I'm overreacting, but this can't be all we have to offer. This is ridiculous. I don't know what's going on. Like, I'm a loss for words. Like,
well, the Giants are 1-8 in their last 9 regular season openers. You know, they have had just some really, really stinkeroo games to start the season. I mean, that's just the way it's been. I can't tell you specifically why, but you know, I was listening to Sirius NFL Radio coming in, Howard.
Okay.
I listen to that station very, very often, and you know, I guess it was Bruce Murray was saying, I don't know what's wrong with the Bengals, but every year they seem to start off 0-2, and they've been that way in the previous 2 seasons, and now they're 0-1 this year.
Well, some teams do 2 different things. Some teams like go and they try to get their install in. They're never really working on the upcoming opponent right until the week before the game. Some teams go in, and part of their install is they're installing to play against the team they're going to play against in the first game.
Mm-hmm.
Some teams do that. Some coaches do that, I should say, and some coaches don't. And I don't know which way works best. You know, you need to be able to get all your stuff down and understand what you need to do for you first, or do you need to start to focus on, hey, we're going to see this in these coming weeks, especially if you know the coach and there's some familiarity. So I again, don't know which way is best. I don't know which way we did it because I'm not a part of the offense or the defense install and what they're looking at. But it's just different ways of looking at it. And as far as how's it going to go for the rest of the season, again, I kind of chalk it up to like a late preseason game because this is the guys getting on the field together for the first time, and now they get to go back and truly evaluate what they've done and what they haven't done and what they need to get closer to doing. Everything from the speed of getting the plays in, how they run the plays, everything from the defense of, okay, we did good here, but why haven't we made another step? And they're going to all talk about it and look at it and see some of the deficiencies and see if they can address them.
There's no better place to watch live TV this fall than Hulu Plus Live TV. Why? Because you get your favorite sports like football, local channels, shows, and so much more. Plus, get Hulu's entire streaming library with Disney Plus and ESPN Plus included with your plan. No long-term contracts or hidden fees. Don't wait. Start your 3-day free trial of Hulu Plus Live TV today. Live TV plan required. Access content from each service separately. Offer valid for new and eligible returning subscribers only if available. Terms and restrictions apply. Learn more at hulu.com.
Two things to say off of what Howard just mentioned, and then I'll let you finish. Number one, Howard and I are really big proponents about having your starters play more in the preseason. Well, the only issue here is that over the course of that 1-8 record of opening day games for the Giants in recent years, you have to figure that at some point in time they were playing opening day opponents that also didn't play their guys.
Oh no!
So so I don't know how. You know what? Maybe it's my fault. I didn't check and see how many starters on the Vikings played how many preseason snaps.
I don't think they had anything to do with it.
Well, maybe they were oiled. Maybe they weren't. I didn't check on that, but I know we would like to see starters play more in the preseason. But the other thought, and Jim Harbaugh, the coach of the Chargers, yelled this out to his team in the NFL Films clips after their victory yesterday. And it holds true for everyone. It's one of the coach's rules, and that is your team will never improve at a greater amount during the course of the season than they will between weeks 1 and weeks 2, because they finally get real tape in week 1.
Okay.
And this between 1 and 2, that's where you can really buckle down and fix a whole bunch of stuff.
I completely understand that, but it's just as a fan who sees it from the outside. I don't know about you guys. You practice. It's just like our good players get wasted because we're trying to fix the trenches. So in 2 or 3 years, if the O-line's not gone, our defensive players, the key defenses like Bobby and everybody else, are just going to keep leaving. And why do? And it's hard to say try at the end of the season go to a new coaching change, but you can't do that because you change everything and you start all over again. So I'm stuck. I don't know if to hate the coach or just have to sit down and keep taking it until we get better. But after 10 years of looking at bad O-line play, that should be the biggest priority because Eli Manning stayed on the field nonstop because he stayed healthy. The new quarterback can't stay healthy because the O-line is just horrible. Do what Eagles do. They had Jason Kelsey draft or help them pick a new player. Pick a O-line person for that specific position instead of swing tackles. And I'm sorry, I'm just a little bit upset, but I'll just listen to you guys over there.
I understand, Lou. It's frustrating for everybody. Believe me.
And I'm listening to him talk about how long it's been since they had a winning season and everything, and I laugh. I'm like, I had the longest stretch between Super Bowl catches, 10 years. I still hold the record. So, I'm like, we'd have a good draft. We'd have a couple good years. And we'd have like 3 or 4 bad years. I played through Coach Parcells, Coach Hanley, Coach Reeves, and then I got to Coach Fossil at the end of my career. And if I'd have played 2 more years, I'd have had Coach Coughlin. So
yes, sir.
It's just like, guys, it's just I would love for us to be great every year. I'd love for us to win every year. But, I'll take the 2 or 3 Super Bowls every decade or so and get yourself back in rhythm. I know it takes time and you just got to keep grinding. And as players, we know what you're doing. You're trying to, 1, keep your job, and 2, do your job the whole time. So you got to keep grinding at it.
201-939-4513. Alan in Washington would like to talk to us on the show. Big Blue Kickoff Live. Hello, you're next.
Hi, gentlemen. How are y'all doing today?
Very good, very good. Are you calling from D.C. or from Washington State?
D.C.
Okay, all right.
We got the Commanders next, so keep an eye on them. But, I thought yesterday was a hard watch. I think the good news, I could see some improvement in the offensive line. Some costly penalties, but overall, I think it's improved. You saw the kid Malik. He looked also pretty good for his first game. But yeah, there's just a disparity in talent right now, and part of that is losing Barkley. To me, I would have never let him go. That's just me. I feel like ownership at that time, and about 2 years ago, made a lot of excuses for Daniel, but didn't make any of the same excuses for Barkley. I think the offensive line has been a tragedy for a few years, and the biggest person impacted was Barkley. And you can see, as a Giants fan, it was very hard watching Philly and seeing Barkley score 3 touchdowns. We can't even score 1 on our opening game on our 100-year anniversary with all the momentum in the house against the backup QB. Shout out to our defense who showed up, and our offense again is lackluster this year, and it's going to be another hard year for us to watch. And you're going to have a lot of people angry and wanting Daniel out of there. I'm not necessarily one to jump at that after 1 game, but if this continues, there's just no way. All of it's going to just go down the drain. And I'm still in awe that we got rid of Barkley. My wife, who barely watches any football, was saw him on the Eagles, and she was like, "Isn't that your guy?" And I'm like, "Yeah." She's like, "Why would you get rid of your best guy?" And I had no answer for her. Maybe money, but his character, his demeanor, what he's done for the community, everything was a Giant. He should have been a Giant for life, and it just makes me sad to see him go on the Eagles.
Alan, he was going to the highest bidder. That's all you need to tell your wife. He was going to the highest bidder. There was not going to be any loyalty shown. At the end of the deal, it was quite clear he wanted to cash in, and the Giants were not up to that economic reach.
First off, that's not fair. That's not fair.
I think they could have.
It's my opinion.
They could have got him.
Here's my opinion. The year before, they offered Barkley a contract, and he said no. His representative said no. They wanted more. He probably got pretty close to the same contract they offered him the year before. But the problem probably is that in that year that he played, he probably got banged up a little bit. So if the team that you're playing with and playing for is watching you getting banged up and they're offering you a contract even though they know you're going to be banged up and you don't take it, that's when the kind of the rubber hits the road, I think. And I think if I'm Barkley, I take the money every time. Now, when I was playing, I didn't think that way because I wasn't smart enough to think that way. But now as an adult,
Howard.
As an adult, and I love fans, and I know that you guys want your guys to be around all the time and be with your same team forever. Take that money. You're not going to have a chance to get it forever, and your body is like on loan to this game. This is not your place of business, a place of work. This is like you're on a loan and a short-term loan.
If you had somehow signed elsewhere in the middle of your career, you wouldn't have gone back to that second Super Bowl.
Okay, let's do the math. If I'd have signed, and I'm not going to say where I could have signed, if I'd have signed somewhere for like $8 million signing bonus, I think I'd have been okay not going back to the second Super Bowl.
Maybe some guys feel differently.
I'm going to tell you right now, no, they don't.
Okay.
Thank
you, Alan.
Money changes a lot of things.
It does. It does.
But
I understand.
But at that time, I felt like you. I'm like, oh man, this is great. I'm gonna be here. I'm a Giant for life. But nowadays, there's so much more money involved in it. Like you're changing like almost generations of your family, especially nowadays.
I think it comes down to the Ted DiBiase theory. The $1 Million Man said everybody has a price. That's all I'm saying.
I'm gonna
people
right now and say this.
Other people don't.
Dottino's one of the biggest fans in the world. But if the Eagles offered him $4 million a year to come down there and do this show, he will be down there tonight.
Not doing it.
Oh yes,
not
you
doing
would.
it. Not doing it.
Everybody in the room's nodding.
Let's go to another call.
He'll be like, fly, Eagles,
Steve,
fly.
Absolutely not. Steve, you're next on Big Blue Kickoff Live. Hello.
Hey, how are you guys? How you doing, Howard and Paul? How are you?
Very good.
We're trying to get by, my man.
Yeah, well, listen, I got a point on the offense and a point on the defense, and
Okay.
I'll obviously hang up because I want to take your answer, hear your answer. I was originally had a mindset that I was going to call, and I know I've done this to Paul once before, and I think I didn't win any good favors by him by not removing the fan hat and going crazy. But I won't because I like to think at 56 years old I reserved a little common sense in my life. But I'm just going to ask you guys a question, okay, before I get to my defensive point.
Mm-hmm.
When does the pain stop for a Giant fan? Because, you listen, okay, I belong to a Giants fan page on Facebook, and I have vigorously, jealously defended Daniel Jones and have gotten crucified for it.
Mm-hmm.
And I got to say, when all this is said and done, and you hear Mara talk about how it breaks his heart and he wish things would be different, once again, Paul and Howard, us, the long-suffering Giant fan, we feel it, okay? To lay an egg like that yesterday is inexcusable. There's no, and honestly, I had questions for the whole game. Here's Dable saying we're going to air it out, we're going to hurl, we're going to throw the ball, and it's like rookie year again. What's this guy doing? I didn't know who was calling the plays. You wanted Kafka, you didn't want Kafka, now you don't have Kafka. Excuse me. And we get a very vanilla playbook. Is it because they don't trust Daniel Jones? And I have to say, I don't know if it's Mara who feels his pride is going to be hurt now by sitting Jones. And I get it. I'm one person out of millions of fans, and I understand that, guys. But as a long-suffering, loyal Giant fan, since I'm in diapers, I have to say, I think ownership owes it to the fans to at least put a competitive team out on that field. Okay?
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah, sure, absolutely, Howard.
Are you the longest suffering fan in every franchise, or is it just the Giants? It's just the Giants have to be better. Because I played for the team for 13 seasons, and I did win a Super Bowl, and I'm going to tell you, we did not have winning seasons my entire 13 years.
Yeah, listen, I saw the losing seasons. I remember when Parcells took over. I remember Ali Haji Sheik. I watched as a fan.
You remember Coach Coughlin's 2 Super Bowls.
Right.
But you could be a Dallas fan, and you could win 12 games a year and never go anywhere. Or you could be a Jets fan and have the best defense in the league and not have sniffed a Super Bowl since before you were born. Or you could
Right,
be a
Howard.
Bengals fan, but you're a Giants fan. So you have to, as bad as your team's playing, try to have some hope.
No, Howard, I'm not disputing anything you're saying, and I think logically, to a certain degree, the angst, if that's the word I can use, is something that I know every Giant fan feels.
Yep.
And you don't want to go. Okay, you can win the argument when you say it's just one game. Fine. Okay, everyone got that. It's one game. But at what point does Dable say, all right, you know what? I owe it to this club. I owe it to our fans, the team, ownership, to try to make this at least. Look, we knew we weren't going to a Super Bowl this year, but you can't keep putting Daniel Jones out there because at year 6, I don't think this is going to work anymore. Listen. I supported him, Paul. I wear his jersey. I'm a huge Jones supporter. I believe in the underdog, But at what point does this? This is the definition of insanity, guys. It's like you keep running this guy out there, and it's like you expect something different. And yesterday, he looked abysmal. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. And I'm saying, okay, you know what? Maybe after halftime, he'll pick it up a little bit, kind of like last year, game 2 Arizona. Guys, you saw that. He turned it around. It was like a different Daniel Jones.
Right.
But there was nothing there. And you know what, again, how much more as a Giant fan, as all Giant fans, do we have to see this? And I'm not knocking the guy. I'm not up here saying he's this and he's that. Listen, I'm sure he's a great, great guy. And he's got tools because I know he's got a hell of a rocket of an arm. But at what point does this say, all right, you know what? We're 0-1. You go into Washington. You would hope you can beat Washington. You'd like to think you have that streak going. But let's say, God forbid, and I don't like to throw these wild scenarios out there, it comes halftime, you're down 12, 15, 16 points, 17 points already. What do we look for? Listen, my question is, what are we going to look forward to offensively from the Giants? And real quick, here's my defensive question, guys, and maybe you can elaborate this. I'm probably going to get knocked for saying this, but I wasn't doing cartwheels when they brought Shane Bowen in here. I'm going to be totally honest with you. Yeah, I know the guy had good numbers when he was with the Titans against the run, but you know what? What really concerned me is you're letting the Vikings, this is Sam Darnold, man. This isn't Montana or Marino. You're letting this guy drive from there 199 yards. This guy made no adjustments, none. And I don't know, Howard, you probably know a lot. Obviously, you know a lot more than me on this. I didn't see it. I didn't see at least one blitz, something, a safety coming in the middle. You brought in Burns. You got to take, you guys know, Howard, a defense's job is to take the quarterback off his rhythm, out of his groove as quick as possible. You don't want him getting comfortable in the pocket, planting his feet, and hurling 15, 20-yard plays.
Steve, I wanted you to empty your holster, which is why I gave you time, because we're already past our time limit. So I wanted to give you that chance. It's okay. Listen, I get it. The game was a skunk. Okay? The game was a skunk. Nobody is denying that. The game was a skunk. For your sake and every other Giants fan out there who cares about this team, I'm glad you care about the team. And I certainly hope for all of you, the Giants beat Washington on Sunday. They're back at 500 at 1-1, and everybody can take a deep breath and wipe their brow. Okay. That's what I hope.
I just have one question, then I'll hang up. Like I said, I asked you guys if, and again, you hate using the word if because it's probably the biggest word in the English dictionary. If this goes by the wayside, and here we are looking at 0-2 and looking at 0-3, please tell me, as a Giant fan who lives and breathes for this team and waits all year for these moments, what do we have to look forward to? Will we see a change? Drew Lock came out the same time as Daniel Jones. At this point now, what do you got to lose?
Steve, you're better off, for your own health, you're better off not dealing in hypotheticals right now. Because hypotheticals are not going to help you in this state of emotion. They're only going to hurt you.
That is so funny.
I know.
All right? Be well. All right? Be well.
Thank you, Howard. Thank you, Paul.
Have a good day.
One.
All right, Howard.
All right.
That's a wrap for week number 1.
That's crazy.
On to Washington, as Belichick might say. Jot down the number for next time.
We could answer the question like that on the Washington.
Would you like to soothe Steve's ire? Okay.
Fan fanatic. I get it.
And you know what? I understand it. I appreciate it. And he's just going to have to let that stove simmer and come down to a nice cool temperature over the next couple of days.
I understand.
All right, Steve. Be well. 201-939-4513 is our phone number here on Big Blue Kickoff Live. Jot it down. We are here every single weekday from 12:30 to 1:30 p.m. Eastern Time. And then on the archive, you can get it where all your favorite podcast platforms are or on Giants.com/podcasts and the Giants mobile app. For Howard Cross, I'm Paul Dottino. This has been Big Blue Kickoff Live, presented by Cadillac, the official luxury vehicle of the New York Football Giants. So long, everybody.
Hey, it's Angela Yee. Searching for the perfect new lipstick? Look no further than the new Spike Valentino Buttery Matte Lip Color with 10-hour comfort and a non-drying matte finish. Spike Valentino is that girl. With gold aluminum packaging fully embossed with Maison Valentino's signature studs. And can you hear that magnetic click? Discover the 12 shades in vibrant nudes and pops of color from couture in the streets to its Valentino, baby.
Hey, what's up? I'm Jared Goff, quarterback for the Detroit Lions. Abercrombie's NFL partnership kicked off last year, and if you haven't shopped there recently, I'll tell you exactly where to start. First, Abercrombie's denim quality is unmatched. I'm a fan of their loose jean. It's really in right now, and the athletic fit has extra room in the thigh I need. Make sure to hit up Abercrombie Essentials collection for tees and their best-selling Essential Popover hoodie. My wife is notorious for stealing that, so you might want to grab a few. Shop Abercrombie to see what everyone's talking about.